when we talk about organic, we're basically saying this food has been produced without the use of toxic chemicals or poisons, which is readily used and used a lot by conventional farming methods. And when we say conventional, we're generally meaning monoculture crops, large scale, that are heavily relied upon synthetic fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides. And all these things are chemicals that are used to produce food which, I sternly believe shouldn't be there. And they don't belong in nature, they don't belong in the soil. They're actually really bad for the soil biology. Even though we're putting these fertilizers in, they're feeding the plant, but they're not feeding the soil. They might make a plant green for a year or so, but it's actually damaging the soil. So there's all these inputs that are out there, and this has only been around for 50 or 60 years. We've been farming for 10,000 years, and all of a sudden almost all of our food is reliant on these chemicals that haven't been around very long. So that's a bit scary, really, if you think about it, especially when you see images of people in suits and masks and they're spraying stuff around food. These dangerous chemicals, obviously they're dangerous, is going onto our food, and then we eat that. Even though we're told it's in small amounts, blah, 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 it's still out there, it's still in the soil, which runs off into our oceans, and it doesn't need to be there. We've been sold on this idea that we can't feed the world organically, there's too many people, poverty, blah, blah, blah. And there's plenty of research now that shows that, yes, organic farming can be more productive and it can feed the world. There's also the issue of how much food we waste and all that sort of stuff. So, that's a debate that will go on for a while. But the fact is, if we have more small-scale organic farms, we can feed more people in a better way. It's there in front of us. So it just comes down to really thinking about, do you want these chemicals in our food? It doesn't belong there. So look into those things, It comes back to that, let's not think too much about labels and certifications and just think logically about what it is and why it's there. Like, why are these chemicals there? And if they don't belong in nature, they don't belong in food, why are we putting them in there? Not only that, look at the last 50 to 60 years where most of the damage has happened on this planet. Again, coming back to that thing, the way we feed ourselves is the most damaging thing we've done. But really, that's mostly in the last 50 to 60 years. So there's a very obvious trend between the use of chemicals in food production, damaging of our land, and not only that, there's a plethora of information out there on health, cancer, all these sort of statistics that are showing this big curve of it's all going up. And of course there's stress and all this other stuff involved, but if we're not feeding ourselves properly, how can any of it work anyway? If we're not thinking consciously about the food we're putting into our bodies and thinking about, okay, what made this food, what's in it, we need to eat. Every day, it's our energy, our health is so dependent on what we eat. So obviously that's a good place to start. A lot of people talk about the price of organics and it's expensive, and yeah, it costs more to farm in that way. It's more effort and labour and time, but the more we choose organic, the more we choose the right things, the cheaper it can become. And and we've already seen that. Organic consumption has been on the rise immensely, and you see those prices drop. But again, can we afford not to do this? Can we afford not to choose the right things? Can we afford to keep feeding ourselves in a way that's destructive? And well, the answer's pretty clear, I think. there is a lot of talk about feeding the world organically and that sort of stuff, and that's been a debate going on for a long time, which I've followed closely. I mean, it's now proven, I mean, there's plenty of research to show that organic farms can be more productive. They for sure as hell can produce more healthier, tastier food. I mean, you can just taste it. And it's really fascinating to see a person eat vegetables or produce that's farmed in a really good way and see the difference and see how they really taste the difference. And they can not just taste it, but they're feeling it. They're feeling the food that they're eating. And you know, I've definitely noticed that, the way you can taste the difference. And when I eat food that I know hasn't been grown rightly, you can just feel it. And you can feel food that's grown the right way. And by being more connected to our food, by being more aware of what's going into our food and looking more closely at organic methods versus conventional methods, we can start being connected and start making better decisions, especially around those two things.